All right, great. So, welcome to the second Catechist training. I'm excited to see you guys. This is definitely better than two people. Love it. We are going to send you guys into breakout groups here in a few minutes, just to discuss a couple things. But more or less, I just want to check in. How are you guys doing, catechist wise, faith formation wise, or just not faith formation wise? How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying it.
good.
Yes, me too. And I'm doing really well, and I really enjoy teaching the kids.
Yeah.
And
Christy,
they're very
you
receptive.
have kindergarten, right, Christy?
I do have kindergarten, yes.
Yeah, you have a different type of group. Yeah, you guys have your own books and things. I'm sure that's a great group. You have 4 or 5 kids, I think.
I have 5 this year. Last year I had 10. So it's quite a
yeah, it's a drop off, but as we talked about at the very beginning of the year, right? Like we're a little more. I think we should be more. I guess generally should be more concerned with the kids that we do have and we're serving, right? Than the kids that are not there. And so I think you guys have done an excellent job with that. We are greatly appreciative to you for that. So how else are things going for you guys? You guys all doing? Thumbs up.
Since this year, Juan and I in the same classroom, it works out well. So we'll divide the class, either he starts or I start and the other one finishes. If he's not in, then I'm in. So it works out. And we love the 5th graders. They ask more questions, they're more attentive. So we are enjoying it.
Who did you have? What grade did you have last year? I know you guys were split, but you had 4th, right?
Yeah, we both have 4th grade last year.
Okay. So you're teaching some of the same students then, and they have more.
Yes, we have a lot of the same students we both had last year.
Good. And that's also really important, I think, to note, because you're building rapport with those students as the same catechist, and so they learn to trust you more, right?
Yes.
It's hard being a teacher. It's hard being a teacher every day anyway, and building rapport with these students. But when you only see them once a week for, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour, it's hard. So you need a little more time to build that. So that's good to
know. I feel like we built the relationship last year, so this year they're more open to whatever you're saying to or asking of them. So it works out well.
Yeah. Did anybody else overlap with the grades that they were teaching last year? Like, are you guys still teaching the same grades, or did you move up a grade?
I think I taught 5th grade last year and this year as far as the sacraments.
Okay. Yeah, because some of you guys overlap, right? Some of you are sacraments and faith formation weekly and monthly, where some of you are just either weekly or monthly or one of those. So
right. And last year I taught 5th graders catechism, and then now I have 4th graders, so nothing has overlapped.
Okay.
I will say that I'm enjoying it this year. Mine was a big change from 5th going down to 1st grade. So I'm enjoying the difference in the age group I have right now.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all very different.
So I moved from 2nd to 1st this year so that I could be with my youngest granddaughter in 1st grade. So next year I'll have the same. Well, I'll move up to 2nd grade next year with her. So I assume I'll have some of the same kids.
Yeah.
Which I'm looking forward to.
Good.
What I'm finding surprising is that a few of the kids don't even know how to make the sign of the cross. So even trying to train them, they still go back to doing it the opposite direction. And so I'm surprised that the parents haven't gotten that far.
Are any of you other catechists finding that that's kind of a similar thing in your classes as well?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So that might be something to Let me actually make a note of that. That might be something to address. It's a small thing, but that might be something we should. I say small as in like a small detail, but that's definitely something maybe we could look at if, that's multiple classes.
Yeah, it's something they should learn in first and second grade. And then I've been putting up posters at the beginning of the class. And so we say the Our Father, Hail Mary, and Glory Be at the beginning and at the end, along with the other prayers that y'all have on the sheet,
Sure.
so that they get familiar with it.
Yeah. Scott, how are your kids doing? How are your students doing with the sign of the cross and such?
Well, they're actually doing better this year than the fourth graders I had last year.
Okay.
There's a mixture though. There's every class seems to have some students that are kind of stepping into the program for the first time.
Sure.
Doesn't really matter if they're first grade or fourth grade.
Yeah.
They're just new to catechism altogether.
Right.
And of course they're going to hang back and they don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
But I find that just the more I pray with them, then the more comfortable they get with it.
Sure. Yeah.
This last week with my Sunday group, I actually sang the Our Father with them, or I sang it for them, and some of them actually joined in on it. So I was very surprised with that.
Good. Good. That's a good technique. And Scott, you have a talent for that anyway. So like that's something that it's nice to see that you share that with them, right? That's what we're called to do as catechists. That's one of the things we talked about last month. Was really sharing those gifts that we have.
Yeah.
But that point brings me to our the other slide here. Proverbs 22:6. One of the phrases: "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." So, I think this certainly speaks volumes to itself, but the sooner that we can really emphasize these small details, right, of the sign of the cross or knowing the Our Father or the Hail Mary, right? And this isn't just on us, right? Like this also has to be done at home, right? But when we do focus on these things and it can be emphasized, it's something that they'll at least hold on to, whether they know it or not, at least subconsciously, they'll have that knowledge of, oh, this is how I make the sign of the cross. Right.
Well, and that's so prevalent now as you see it on baseball teams and football teams with them making the sign of the cross like our quarterback and pointing up to heaven. Somebody taught them along the way and it's sticking with them. And you see a lot of crosses, baseball players wearing crosses and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm loving that their faith is showing on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And CJ Stroud is a really he's a really good example of that. I would say he's been very, very good. He's been a very good example of that. And I have to look past that he went to Ohio State, but that's just me. Yeah. What else about that quote stands out to you guys?
I think a lot of the altar servers, they began with some of my kids. I just recently told them, they said they couldn't become an altar server till they received their first Holy Communion. And I'd forgotten about that, but they said they couldn't wait to start collecting money from weddings and funerals and stuff. But even if that's the way they start out, it's a good way to get them involved. And maybe a lot of the priests said they were altar servers. So train them up as a child, and you never know, we could get more priests.
We could. Yeah, very much. Or deacons too,
Yep.
Or just honestly holy marriage vocations. Like any one of those is good.
Well, we need more priests, and we can't leave it up to the priests to they've got to come from the families and from catechists and stuff, putting that seed in their brain. So
for sure. But I think you could make the argument there that you need good, virtuous, holy marriages to even establish that. And so you got to have all of them, right? To really have one of them, you need all of them. It's a very concept. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna add, when you asked about like what stands out to us, I think about and you kind of mentioned it right now, virtuous living. just living through the different virtues and how we model it at home as a parent, or how we can model it as catechist.
Mhm.
And just kind of setting the example, because sometimes they hear all these words, like the fruits of the Holy Spirit, but they don't know exactly what it is unless we can model it for them.
Yeah, that's a good point. We give a lot of attention, I think, sometimes to whether it's a one side or the other, whether it's a political view or uh, athletics or whatever the case is. Um, Sometimes we give too much attention to these buzzwords, and I think you make a very good point that some of these terms, right, like virtue or um, fruits of the Holy Spirit, these can be Catholic buzzwords, but we don't always explain what those are, right? Um, like I can tell you from personal experience that back in high school, I always heard the word virtue, 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 but it wasn't until I was maybe 19 or 20 that people were like, no, here's actually what a virtue is, and then here's actually how you live it out. And that was Catholic school, and I heard that term outside of a Catholic setting. Um, so yeah, I think you make a very excellent point of like, okay, yeah, you should be modeling these at home as a parent, as a catechist, but also like encouraging your kids to live that out and say, here's what a virtue is, like actually have those conversations. So whether it's your students or your kids at home, right, or your grandkids at home. Yeah, anybody else got anything on that?
Well, I always enjoy pointing out to the kids how lucky they are to have parents that are willing to bring them. And
Mhm.
when you're talking life experience, there's always a chance to bring out that there are classmates they have in school that are bullies and are not following the same kind of structure, and it's because they don't have parents, that they aren't as lucky to have parents that are willing to share everything with them. And at first the kids were a little kind of taken back by it, but now they're starting to hear me say that every week, how lucky they are.
Yeah,
And it kind of builds into the fact that they're going to be the one to share the message with these kids who aren't as fortunate someday. So
sure. Yeah, I mean, repetition is the mother of all memory, right? The more you repeat it, the more they're going to hear it and hopefully take it to heart. So yeah, that's a good point. All right, so I'm gonna send you guys into breakout groups for a few minutes. We're gonna go ahead and just kind of look at this. Let's see, this question of what are effective ways to discuss the topic at hand. So, like, you know, whatever your topic for the night is, whether it's the Holy Trinity or um, I don't know, the resurrection or Easter as a whole, right? The Paschal mystery. What are effective ways to discuss that topic without reading directly from the book? Like, what are some ways that you guys have done that? So, I'm gonna send you guys into breakout groups. We'll be in there probably for about 5 or 10 minutes, roughly, and then we'll come back as a group. So, let me figure this out. I just did it a few minutes ago. You guys can talk amongst you. Oh, here we go. We'll break out into two, and then so, 3, and yep. Okay. So there should be a button on your screen that says something like join breakout group number whatever. Just click that. It'll send you to another chat, and I'll have you guys come back in about 10 minutes.
Wait, y'all don't leave me. I don't see it.
I don't
Yeah,
see.
I haven't clicked it yet. So
Oh,
you got it?
Yep.
Okay. So go ahead and yeah. Hey guys, I hope I didn't cut you off in the middle of a good part of your conversation.
It was a good conversation, yes.
Good,
Mhm.
good, good. Yeah, the other three should be coming back any minute.
I can't get it to show everybody again. Like I said, I'm kind of new back doing this. Let's see.
So
I'm-
check your.
oh, there it
check
goes.
your-
I think I have it. Yeah.
Okay.
We're back. We didn't get to finish listening to Scott's response he was going to give.
We just, they were asking me about, I'll give them a question and ask them to write the answer down on
Mhm.
paper so that they have to think for themselves and come up with something unique.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then there's always some kid who's just dying to tell you what he thought of.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll always give a couple of a chance so they can know that sometimes they think the same and sometimes there's more than one answer to the same question. So
Yes.
that's part of the whole thing of trying to come up with some of my own questions.
Mhm. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good idea. You know, kind of regurgitate the question back to them and say, "What do you think about that?"
Mhm.
Yeah, rather than just reading it directly, right? What else do you guys talk about in either of your groups? This is our time to share kind of what we just came up with as a larger group. What you guys came up with in your smaller groups. And again, I apologize if I cut you off from a important point you were making. So
Well, I was telling them that having more or less either read or listened to the Bible probably about 12 times, I've gotten real familiar with it. So when I know what the chapter's about, and as we're reading it, I can relate it back to a story in the Bible, which they seem to get really quiet when I start putting it into real life. This is what happened in the Bible, and that they love to listen to the war stories and stories about David and how Solomon wrote Proverbs and how much they loved God, and that, that Psalms is written by a king, how much he loved God and he sang these songs to God and stuff. So they like to hear that, grown up men.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. I think part of that goes back to Scott. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, sorry, Dale.
No.
We shared in our group that adding your personal experiences to some of the scripture or the teachings helps so that the children can understand. And it makes them more personal.
Mhm.
So it captivates their imagination to even just listen to the teacher share that with them.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a quote somewhere, and I don't remember exactly who said it or why it was said, but it's basically to the effect that children don't want teachers, they want or people don't want teachers, they want witnesses, right? So
Mhm.
really giving your personal experience, like, you know, you can tell usually you can tell a salesman who cares about his work, knows his work, versus
It's 7 o'clock.
sorry about that, versus a salesman who is just selling a product, right? Um,
Right.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to be spiritual salesmen, not in the salespeople, not just not in the sense of we're trying to sell you a product, but um, we're trying to make this thing relatable to you, right? We're trying to make it authentic. Um, yeah.
We also talked about role playing and which is especially fun in kindergarten. But any age could do it. Any class could do it. I told them about me dressing the kids up as saints for that lesson, but also I shared for the lesson on baptism and the sacraments, we act out a baptism with a baby doll.
Mhm.
Yeah. And they love that.
Yeah, it really makes the
Things you
lesson,
can do with role playing.
yeah, it really makes that lesson tangible, right?
Mhm.
And they
Mhm.
actually get to visualize. And I think we talked about this in the first month, that we are visual learners, right? We are visual people, and so we want to see things, feel things, taste things, right? We use our senses for all these things. And so the more we can really engage the senses with the kids, rather than just them hearing things, the better. Right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Was there anything else you guys had on that subject? Anyone?
I also mentioned in my group about the role play. Well, I said skit, but it's I think it's the same thing, right? The skit role playing, um, taking the stories that are embedded in the chapters, but rather than just reading them, selecting students from the class to play some of those parts, and they love it. Like they laugh, they giggle, they think it's funny. And then at the end, I ask them questions like a recap. So tell me, what did you learn? What did this character do? You know, what did Jesus just did he just say, okay, don't worry about that sheep, it's gone, don't worry about it, we just leave it alone and keep going on with our day? And they're like, no, he had to make sure to go back and go look for that lost sheep. So just um I read it like the narrator, I let them do the role play, and then I ask them questions afterwards, and I feel that that has given me more success than if I were to just read out of the book.
Great. Yeah. No, those are all really, really important things. Those have all been found to actually be really successful ways of teaching as well. So I applaud you guys for definitely, like, getting out of your comfort zone and saying, okay, well, the book is there to be a resource, right? But the book is not there to be the only resource.
Mhm.
Right? It's there to be, think of it like a guardrail, right? It's there to help you, but it's not there to, you know, it's not there to be the view, right? Um, it's really, yeah. I mean, you guys are the resource, right? Scripture is the resource. Your minds are the resource. Your hearts, all your talents, all of that is the resources, um, in which the Lord has called you to say yes to. So if the only thing we're saying yes to is a book, that's it's okay, but it's gonna be limited. So I applaud you guys for really trying to get out of your comfort zone and trying these new ways of uh, teaching. Um, and some may work, some may not work, and that's okay, right? Um, it's always, I think it's really important to say, and I think I'd said this to you guys at our very, very first catechist night, before the students were there, is if you hit one thing, you've hit something. If you've hit everything, you've hit nothing, right? So if you hit one point, you've at least left something with them. That's all we can really ask, especially only in a 45-minute period, or an hour and a half period.
And that's my prayer before, as I'm driving up, I ask God to please help me to put his words into my brain so that I can transmit it to the kids, and give me at least one thing that will stick with them the rest of their life,
Yeah.
that he wants me to instill in them. And so I'm hoping that he will take the lead through what I say.
Yeah.
But then another thing too is, somebody was saying, give your own life situations and stuff to relate to. So, and I think that's a good idea too, because when I tell them God goes before you and fights your battles, and to give them examples of my life, how
Mhm.
God interacted and helped me out without me even trying, otherwise I was going to get in trouble, and he was there for me. And it just makes them realize, oh, that's how God goes before you and fights your battles. So that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Sure.
mean, somebody else suggested it and I didn't say anything, but that's a good idea.
That was a great point. Great point. Just really quickly, before we wrap this up, um, I just wanted to make note about what we've been talking about. Thomas Aquinas is a wonderful example of this. Okay. Wrote the Summa Theologica, very well known, complex theological writing. Um, Basically takes these concepts and questions that people have asked about the faith over time, and he asks the question, and then he works his way through, um, answering the question, but directly answers it. He doesn't run around the barn. He answers the question directly, but he does so in a theological manner. So that's another way of doing it, kind of to your point, Scott, of saying like having them ask the questions, right? He's not just saying, well, here's the answer. He's actually working his way through the answer. Like we used to have a math teacher in elementary school. I don't know if you guys were in the same boat, but that class in particular was always like, show me your work, right? Show me step by step, not just, 2 + 2 is 4, but actually show me out, do out the math to show me how that works. Thomas Aquinas does that. And that kind of happens when you ask them questions and they have to work their way through the answer, right? When you ask a question and they have an answer, that's great. But then if you ask them, well, walk me through that answer, then they got to think a little bit more, right? They're not just answering these buzzwords. They actually got to work their way through it. So you're not just teaching them what to think, but you're teaching them how to think, right?
Mhm.
So that's important. That's
Very good.
almost.
It's hard to get I hear a lot about these saints and what they wrote about and stuff, but it's so hard to know, as a layperson, unless you pick up a book, I guess, or go somewhere and get something about St. Thomas Aquinas. I really don't know that much about him or what he wrote. And even though I'm seeing this, he's a brilliant man who loved the Lord and used his logic, but I have no clue, as to what he wrote or how he wrote. And I'm thinking if I did get a book, it's probably going to be 500 pages or so.
It's a very thick, yeah, it's a thick one. I don't have a copy of it in here. I know we got tons of copies, but
Yeah.
that's not an introduction thing I would mention. It's just the way in which he writes is all, is really what we're talking about for tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you make an excellent point. The saints do have these gifts, and Thomas Aquinas was also a academic weapon. He was a genius, so he's not always the best example to use as far as that goes. But I think it's important to note that he does take that lesson specifically of let's work our way through the question rather than just give me the answer.
Right.
Right.
If you have access to YouTube,
Mhm.
you can quite often pick up like a 30-minute video on the life of like St. Thomas or, the major saints.
You just type in the saint's name on YouTube?
Just go to YouTube and put in the saint's name
Okay.
and I picked up a lot of videos for kids. If you just put in a topic like Trinity for kids, there's a website called Juicebox that's all Catholic videos for kids, but YouTube is just an amazing resource.
Okay.
It really is.
Play around with that.
I'll send you guys a link tomorrow as well. There's a specific video like for kids, and I'm not just saying for kids. Like I actually also enjoy them, but they're like 15-minute videos on the life of the saints. But they're for kids. I don't remember exactly what the page is called,
Is it
but
the Saints for Kids?
yeah, Saints for Kids. I think that's what it's called.
That's what I've been using for like after once everybody's in and they're settled in and everybody's there as they're coloring their sheet. I know y'all give us that long sheet.
Yeah.
But me reading it out loud for the first graders is gonna be way above, them.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't I've been using the advantage of having the cell phone and I just connect it to the TV with the smart or what is it called? Where it mirrors what's on your phone.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I just put the Saints video and they've enjoyed that for the kids.
Great. Well, I just want to give you guys a couple minutes to ask any question. I had another slide in here, but it's gone. Did you guys have anything that you wanted to ask about? Did you have anything that you wanted to discuss for next time or, within these next couple minutes? Because other than that, our next meeting will be December 9th. So
Bill, you mentioned, if you hit one thing and that's the only thing that the kids take with them during that, on that day. We have a lot of material. I don't know if everyone does. The fifth graders, we go through the scriptures, we go through the saints, we go through when we were doing the,
Reconciliation.
no, the prayers for, the Eucharist.
oh,
I lost it.
yeah, I know what you're referring to.
Yes,
Prayers
so
for
we have
Sunday.
that prayer as well, plus the book, so we try to hit a lot of it. A lot of times we don't get to teach all of it.
Sure.
Do you recommend, what is it that you recommend that we touch base or touch the most, so that, do we just concentrate mostly on the book?
Yeah,
Or, because it is a lot of material, and we don't have a lot of time.
right. Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. That's actually one of the things we'll be talking about in January, but to give you kind of a short answer, because I don't want to leave you guys hanging for 2 months on that question. What personally, I'm not a big fan of the book in general. Like even when I was a teacher, like I tried not using the textbook very much. Again, use that as a guide. Find one point in there that you really, or 2 points maybe, that you really want to hit. But if it's like a saint's feast day, right, like a John Paul II, for example, then I would just take that, because that would be like a most likely John Paul II would find his way in your lesson somehow,
Yes.
right, for that week of what's provided to you. I would just take that and prioritize it. I'd just say, yeah, we're going to skip all this stuff unless it's like Easter, Advent, really like the Trinity, really fundamental
Yes.
things.
Yes,
But if the message is, and I'm not saying this for fifth grade, but if the message is just like, tell the kids Jesus loves you, okay, that's great. And I can do that through explaining John Paul II. So I would say if it's a saint and it's an important saint to you, especially, prioritize that. Then I would take your activity and try to tie it into whatever this first point is. But the book is there really just as a guide to say, here are some of the points the chapters want you to make. But we're not asking, and I want to make it very clear to everybody, Melissa nor myself nor Deacon Robert are expecting you to hit everything every night. We know that's not possible. We're not asking that of you. So please, like it, and so thank you for bringing that point up, that if you do feel that pressure of like, I need to hit everything in a night, please know that we're not asking that of you.
Oh, no, and
So-
we don't put pressure on the kids or on ourselves, because
Good.
we feel that, whatever the Holy Spirit is moving at that moment, that's what we're gonna let happen, because that's what the kids are gonna be taking. And for example, last week, we only did about half hour of class and we went to the church.
Yeah.
Because we wanted, a lot of the kids had never experienced being in front of the Holy Eucharist. They didn't know what it was, adoration. So we tried it, we explained it at first, and then we just head to the church.
Sure.
So we figured that was the most important part, so that we can introduce what was going to happen this week.
Yeah.
Is we were not going to have class to Wednesday, so that they can attend one of the activities.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
It sounds to me like you perfectly prioritize things. So that's a really good example. Anything to do with the Eucharist, anything with being in front of Christ, is that's the important one, right? And then everything else kind of follows. So great question.
Thank you.
Anybody else got anything before I close this up?
I do think that the words in the purple box for the older kids, like maybe fourth and fifth, I really find those, because those are words they're going to be hearing throughout their life if they go to mass, like mercy and mercy and grace. I didn't know till I was probably in my 30s what the difference was.
Mhm.
And so finally I realized it, and I'm kind of letting the kids know earlier. But these words and the explanation, and maybe talking about it in the question and answers at the end, are gonna let you know, someday they'll go, oh yeah, I studied that word. Or so, especially with Catholics, I know there's a lot of words that are hard to even pronounce and stuff, like oh, I can't even, we had one 2 weeks ago. It's kind of long, and can't think of what it was, but it's
Transfiguration.
so good. It's so good for them to have a description of what that word means, and I'll make them say the word over and over till they can pronounce it. So because they're going to be hearing it the rest of their lives probably. So
Yeah, there are certain words like I don't even use them in my vocabulary, but one of the words that I heard one time in a sports game of all places was perplexed. And I was 7 or 8 and I didn't know what that word meant at the time. And now it's a word that I think of very often because of that memory, right? So
mhm.
again, if you want to repeat those things to them, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate your time and your willingness to be here. And you know, obviously all the work that you guys have put in to be here this year. I'm very, very grateful. And I can speak for Deacon and Melissa and Deacon Eddie and our faith formation department, the parish as a whole, for that. So uh, we are extremely grateful for you. And again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out, call the office. Um, and again, those of you that are going to be here helping this weekend, thank you again for your patience with the emails. So yeah.
Now the Dale, these classrooms, they look kind of big. And I know somebody's going to be taking half, and somebody else is going to be doing another half, the second part or
I'm gonna
so.
probably move your classroom because you're on the video, so I'll probably move your classroom to a different classroom because that classroom I was thinking about it today before you said that that classroom seems a little big for that one activity. Um, so we'll kind of handle. We can look at that once we get a better handle on the rosters, which should come out Wednesday.
Okay. Okay. Are you talking about Wednesday's class, or I'm talking about Saturday?
I'm talking Saturday. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Because right now I don't have any idea what I'm doing on Saturday.
That's fine. I
Okay.
sent out some stuff tonight, so just scan through your emails a little bit, and
Okay.
I'll send the clarification in the morning.
Okay.
Thank
I'll
you.
be looking.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, take
Thank
care.
you.
Know of my prayers for you. So we'll see you in a few weeks.
We'll see you Saturday.
Yeah. See you Saturday.
Okay.